Yo, what's up, JRod here? Doesn't it look like the Oregon State Beavers puked on me? I mean, I got shirts, hats, coasters, everything, right? I mean, this is game two of the College World Series, and so, I'm excited. I wanted to come to you again and talk about some more of my experiences. I had a kind of a weird time growing up. It was just a different time during the 70s and 80s where there's a lot of alcoholism, divorces, and my sister and I just being kind of pawns, back and forth. And anyway, I get to the point where I don't know why I was able to graduate from high school with pretty good grades, but I had very little parent interaction. I didn't, my parents never went to one of my events, one of my basketball games, baseball games. They never went to one thing, whether it was summer ball, hundreds of games. They never went to one game. I mean, okay, cry me a river, right? And so I tried to make that a point where my kids would know that I was there, and I did that to the best of my ability when I knew things were going on. But I get to the point where no one's talking to me about anything beyond high school. I was in survival mode at home. There was a lot of uh, abuse between my stepfather and my mother, back and forth with each other, and I just tried to stay out of it, just trying to survive. Anyway, I know some of you have been in that situation, have survived, and some of you have struggled with it. But I get to the point where I graduate from high school, and I go to graduation. Everything seemed fine. I go to the all-night grad party, had a pretty good time. I get home around 6 a.m. from the all-night grad party, and I go straight to bed. I was whooped. I was tired. I woke up around noon, and my mother comes in my room, and she says, "We have paid the rent through the end of the month." This is early June, 1989. We paid the rent to the end of the month. We're moving to Nevada. I hadn't heard anything about this. This is brand spanking new to me. So I go over to the window, open the curtains. The moving van's already packed. And I'm just like groggy, going, what in the heck is going on? And they left. I watched them drive away. And so here I am. The house is empty except for my bedroom. My bedroom has a twin bed, a dresser, and maybe one other piece of furniture, maybe a little table or something. That was it. And that's all I had. So anyway, I'm like, okay, now what do I do? So, I mean, my friends and I had a pretty good time for the rest of June 1989, but I didn't know where I was going from that point. Thank goodness for Ron and Annette Johnson. I know I've lost touch with you, but you saved my life. Now, one thing, I had jobs. I was constantly working. I think I had 3 jobs. And I had a little runaround car. So I had, I wasn't reliant on busing or whatever. But Annette Johnson hears about this deal, and she goes, "Oh, no, you're coming to live with us, and we're going to get you into school and all that," because I had pretty good grades. I had a 3.4 GPA cumulative or something like that, which at the time there was no bonuses for AP classes or anything like that, so it was unweighted. And she did. She took me in, and she charged me a little rent. It was just a couple $100 a month or something, just to kind of keep me, from just being whatever, abusive or whatever. Not that I would be, but like, I don't want to abuse the privilege of staying with her. And she literally drove me down to the community college and got me registered, loaned me the money to get into for the classes. And I did that for the first term of 1989, the fall of 1989. And she goes, "Do you want to go to Oregon, University of Oregon, or Oregon State University?" And all my buddies went to Oregon State, so I said, "I'll go to Oregon State." So we literally just got in the car, drove down to Corvallis, Oregon. We walked into the registrar. She marched in there and got me registered for winter term. And I had gone through high school, got good grades, was active, and no one ever really talked to me about college. Isn't that crazy? Now it's such a priority. We talk about college when they're freshmen in high school and, oh, college, college, college. And now the pendulum swung maybe the other way, and maybe college is so expensive that it's not worth it anymore. I don't know. That's a decision for you to make. But it's kind of ingrained in us. I mean, just, college, college, college. And so we went to college. I went to Oregon State my winter term going into 1990. And at the same time, I had a buddy named Mike Gaither who was 2 or 3 years older than me. And he graduated from the same high school, but he went to Merchant Marines, or he went to the military for a couple, 3 years and then got out. And then he also, unbeknownst to me, he also started at Oregon State. I tell you, this is a point of real heaviness on my heart, because I'll tell you this story. I was trying to just, I was trying to make new friends. It was a brand new situation. I'm living in a dorm with all these people that I don't know. And, I'm trying to make those friends. I'm trying to make my way in this huge school, going from a high school of, I don't know, 1,200 people to a community college, which had 3 or 4 buildings, to a massive campus. And if you've been, that's a big adjustment. Go, oh man, I got to go from this side of the campus to this side of the campus, and I've only got an hour to get there. I've got 45 minutes, whatever the time frame is, and you got to go 2 miles instead of walking down the hall and go to the next class. It's a big deal. And so Mike starts showing up, trying to, spend time with me. And I'm trying to spend time here, and I've got classes, and I'm trying to do what I can do. And so over time, this winter of 1990, I kind of start blowing him off a little bit, because I was kind of done with the old, and he kind of represented the old. I was turning a new leaf. And so as time went on, getting closer to the end of the term and spring break and such, he wanted to do more and more things. And I was trying to, not do that. I was trying to turn the page. And so we get to 2 things happen. It's kind of crazy. We get to that spring break. The first thing is I got done with my final exam. And before I even got to my dorm, so I took the final exam and then walked to my dorm, and I got to my dorm, and there was a thing taped onto the door of my dorm room. And I opened it up. It says, "You are now on academic probation." I had a 2.25 or something to that effect, but it was under their academic probation level at Oregon State. And it said, if you do not raise your cumulative GPA to a 2.5 by the end of spring term, which would have been June 1990, you will no longer be eligible to be a student here at Oregon State. Eek. So I'm totally stressed out about that. Then Mike gets a hold of me, sends me a message and says, "Hey, let's get together." And I said, "No. I'm doing some other things. I'm doing some other things." So he, at some point in the next couple of days, I get a call that he committed suicide. And it's been one of those things where, I felt guilt about it. Like, I don't know if there's something I could have done, if I could have spent time with him. But I was trying to turn over a new leaf, and I didn't know where he was mentally and emotionally. So my message to you is that if you ever see instances where people either talk about it or threaten it, don't. He never talked about it, by the way. But there is help for people. Please, there is help. And talking about it, by the way, does not statistically and based on studies, does not cause suicide, by the way. So you could talk to people. And this is also for friends of friends. You know, your friend, if you see, hey, this person's acting a little different, get them help. Please. It could save a life. Anyway, so I come back from spring break knowing that I'm on academic probation at Oregon State. 2, I had a good buddy of mine just commit suicide. So I had to change everything that I had done because I had reverted back to not really doing the reading and kind of trying to study the night before a test. And as you know, in college, there's generally only 2 tests, 2 scores, maybe 3. There's a midterm and a final. So if you screw up on the midterm, puts a lot of pressure on that final. But I don't know. Anyway, so I'm taking this crazy psychology class. I've got this pressure now. I got to get my cumulative up. So I've changed everything now. I'm studying like I should have been the first time. I'm studying like when there's nothing due tomorrow. That's a tough thing. And one of the tough things about college is that you might not have anything due tomorrow or in a week, but you have to still study. You still have to read. You still have to do the vocab. You still have to know what you're talking about because, you know, you might have one shot to prove it. So I'm taking this psychology, I don't know, 200 something, maybe even 300. I don't remember. But it's way beyond how I think. You know, it's a kind of, if you can only see 3 legs of a table, how can you prove there's a 4th leg? You know, my answer is, well, it just doesn't fall over. Well, that's not good enough. So I'm, as you know too, if you're studying or if you have classes, you generally have classes with people you don't know, but you have that in common. You have that class. And so we get to the end there, and there's a guy I see in the MU, and I'm studying, he's studying. I go, hey man, you got that class? Yeah, that class, blah, blah, blah. Let's study. Okay. So we're studying for the final now, for this one class. This psychology that's way beyond what I can conceptualize. And we're studying. Hey, do you have Kant? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have all these people? What do they say? What do they say? You know, what are their thoughts? Okay. Well, at the time, too, we had to buy a blue book, which was basically a sealed book with just lines. And you bring it into a final so that the teacher knows you haven't pre-written some things. And it's usually either sealed and maybe even wrapped in plastic. So then you just roll in, and then they give you the test. They tell you break open your blue book, and then you break open your blue book, and then you write stuff down, right? So we get going, get studied up. We spend hours studying for this final, going to the final exam. I sit down. He happens to come in maybe 10 minutes after me and sits closer to the front. So the teacher gives us the professor gives us the final exam, and then says, okay, break open your blue books, break open the blue books. Okay. I open the final exam, and it says the whole thing, the whole final exam. Question was, why? Question mark. Eek. So I start writing why. And I start writing every reason. All this, well, this person said this, and this person said that. And I'm writing. About 30 seconds, the dude I was studying with closes his blue book and turns it into the professor and leaves. Maybe a minute. My brain was, I don't even know what to write now. Anyway, so he leaves. Okay. So I'm writing. I wrote probably 10 pages of stuff on this blue book. I got done. I closed it up, maybe an hour. Walked it up, gave it to her, the professor. I left. A couple, 3 days later, I actually got a B minus on that test. A couple, 3 days later, I see the guy that I studied with. I don't know him. I just know that he has my class. But I said, look, man, what happened? You just gave up? He goes, no, I didn't give up. I go, what? He goes, I got an A. I go, how? He goes, well, I just wrote why not? Question mark. And turned it in. He got an A. I wrote for an hour and got a B minus. Sometimes that happens. And that was pretty lucky. You know how sometimes you study super hard for something and then someone next to you doesn't study at all and they get, they get a better grade than you or the same grade as you? That happens sometimes. There's nothing you can do about it. Some people are better test takers than you are. And just acknowledge it and accept it and know what you need to overcome. This is true for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're in high school, in middle school, in college, or if you're a professional somewhere. Accept your shortcomings and try to do better. Try to overcome them. For instance, one big thing is public speaking is a huge fear. I mean, studies show that it's one of the biggest fears humans have. I see it day to day. If I say, okay, here, student A, come on up and give a speech on, this, or your AirPods or something. Oh my goodness. Blood rushes out of their head. I actually had someone pass out one time. She just, I ran up and tried to catch her. I didn't get there in time. It was brutal. But 5 minutes later, she was talking just fine. So it's sometimes, tough giving public speeches. But, even if you work at a retail place or, a pizza place or something, you're still going to be talking to other people. So it is a good skill to have. So it's one of those things it would behoove you to overcome, to work on it. And one of the ways to work on it is do it. Do it. I never would have thought I'd be a teacher. Looking back on my high school, JRod, no way. If you'd have told me that, I would have said you're crazy. I hate teachers in general. There were nice ones, but I hate them in general. They always tell me what to do. They give me work. Some of them are mean. I would have never been a teacher. But I do love sports and I do love to coach, and coaching's teaching. And one of the best ways to get into coaching is to teach. And it's actually a second career. I was in sales first, but I was luckily in a position where I could go back and get my master's in education and become a teacher, and I do what I love. And all the other stuff outside of what happens in my classroom is not the greatest, but what happens in my classroom is solid. It's amazing, and I love it. And hopefully you can find something that you love, a career path you love doing. And if you can find a career path you love doing and get paid for it, there's nothing better. Most people hate their jobs, they hate their bosses, they hate their commute, they, don't like their colleagues or coworkers, and it's just a bummer. It's not. I'm not blaming them. It's just a bummer because they have a mortgage and they have rent to pay, and they've got the students, the kids, and all this other stuff going on, insurance and all that stuff. So you got to do it. Unfortunately, sometimes we got to do things we don't like to do. But it is part of life. It's part of maturing. And you know what? You'll be better for it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to smash that like button.